Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining me and the Justice for Gerard movement for turning a moment into a movement. And I am J Love. As you may know, or if this is your first time joining us, the movement for me began the day my son Gerard was wrongfully incarcerated or convicted for a crime he didn't do. And that birthed this movement, the Justice for Gerard movement. So I want you to know our mission here is to bring awareness to wrongful convictions, as well as the wrongful conviction of Gerard, as well as others who have been wrongfully convicted, to organize, educate our communities about the need to disrupt systems, policies, and patterns that leads to wrongful convictions. We also use this as a safe space and a platform to advocate and to fight for justice for everyone. So thank you for joining us. Today is going to be a little bit different. This is our season last show, and we're going to take a little break for a few weeks. And then we're going to come back all fresh and with a whole lot of new stuff going on. But today I got some, we're going to introduce the panel as we always do, and then we're going to bring on our special guests who I have grown to admire and love. So first of all, let's bring on. Hi.
Hey, how you doing now?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, enjoying a cup of coffee and some apple pie.
That's awesome. Well, you know how we do every week. Introduce yourself and let everyone know what it is that you do.
Okay, my name is Edward Sanders. I go by the name of Baraka. I'm a former juvenile lifer without parole. I served 43 years in Michigan prison. I went to prison at the age of 17. I came home just before my 60th birthday. The year that I actually went in prison was 1975.
Wow.
And the year that I came home was 2017, July the 6th, 2017. And remind you, they delayed my parole or my release because they don't release people on holidays or holiday weekends. And I was scheduled to come home on the 4th of July. So I didn't come home until after that time, which I believe was on the 6th. But in any case, I'm home. Since I've been home, I took and got into grad school at the University of Michigan School of Social Work. I completed my school in there, my grad school. I graduated this past July. I think we had a celebration marking everyone that graduated this past winter on December the 18th, I think it was. Due to the pandemic, we took and did an online graduation, which was regretful. A lot of us in the School of Social Work are very sociable people.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, we finished our task in taking and acquiring our degree. In fact, I just got a letter today. I told you last week I put on hold taking and actually applying for my license. So I got a letter back today letting me know that I can go forth and taking and requesting this time fingerprints, not for a criminal record, but for my license as a social worker. And other good news is I've been given an invitation to be a member of the board of directors for a law firm in which I actually did my intern with.
Wow.
So I just literally walked out the door as an intern and being invited back in the door as a director of the board. And that is with the organization I love most, where I take it, I done labeled all the men and women that work in that organization as urban angels. And that is none other than the Detroit Justice Center. So I have been given an invitation to come back as a board of director, one of the members, and I have accepted it. And I'm very pleased and honored to have been given this opportunity. I'm sure I'm the first returning citizen that has will be occupying a seat at the table as a board member, and I'm probably one of the and I don't know because we have ambitious people at the school, but I'm probably one of the first interns that may have went back to an organization where they've done their internship and got on the board of directors so quick. Some people go back looking for employment, but I find this, to be a great opportunity. I'm also presently working at the University of Michigan School of Information as a research assistant as well.
Wow, that is so awesome. I'm so proud of you. That is a great honor.
Thank you.
Welcome. So next, I see Attorney Hugo Mack. Hey.
Well, always. Much respect. How you doing, Queen?
Great. How about yourself?
Good. Brother Sanders only caught the tail end of it, but I only got a question. Where the autograph line start?
Hey, I'm gonna catch you on Mack Street, man, and I'll give you that autograph.
That's right. I tell you, man, I always pay respect to people I get ideas from, but I'm doing it here now because from now on, I will not give you credit. So my thing is, I tell people all the time, no matter where your charge originates from, you're going to end up on Mack Street. So that's what.
You're getting creative there, man. You're getting creative.
Hey, brother. I got that from you, man. I like that.
Yeah, I like that. You're getting very creative. No matter where your charge begins, you're going to end up on Mack Street.
Right, that's right.
Yeah. So we need to do a commercial together, man. We need to do a commercial.
Hey, look. Hey, brother. God don't make no mistakes, man. He got us together here for a whole bunch of different reasons.
Yeah. I need to consult with you about getting in law school. It ain't over with. It ain't over.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, brother, we need you. We need you. We need you. So I'm with you 100% on that. I'm glad you said it because I was wondering about that myself. I just didn't speak on it right away. We need you.
Attorney Hugo Mack, introduce yourself and tell everybody what it is that you do.
Well, Hugo Mack, veteran criminal defense attorney, wannabe prosecutor at one time in my career, for the justice that you can bring to that position, because you need people with justice in their hearts and minds as prosecutors and judges and sheriffs. I add too, which is a county-wide law enforcement officer. So, and always want influence for the right, and I was listening to a lady speak today, and she reminded me over the radio that a man by the name of Gandhi once said, the greatest form of violence is poverty, And so for me, I realize how so many things in our system emanate from people that are poor, through no fault of their own, because a lot of people, if they had the money that OJ had, they wouldn't be in the penitentiary, not because there were any more guilt or innocent, but because they had the resources to fight against the state. And I want to say this, ask about who I am. I'm a person who believes that we are greater than the worst thing that we have ever done or the worst thing that's ever happened to us. Okay. We are greater than that. So my thing is to acknowledge humanity in individuals and give people a chance to go on and live out their life the way God intended for them, And a lot of times when I see my clients, either they're not guilty or they're overcharged. An overcharge can be just as devastating as a wrongful charge, okay? It can be just as devastating because they stack them on you so high, it gets to the point, I got 5 charges against me. If I go down on one of them, I'm bold. If I go down on all 5 of them, I'm sunk, underneath the penitentiary. So just fighting for justice and people being treated fair. That's what I'm about.
Absolutely. Reverend Tia Taylor.
Yes. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I am wonderful. So glad to be here today and a part of a spectacular panel. I think today I've gotten another surge of energy. I am a Reverend at Transforming Love community, and so excited about helping people to transform their lives. That's what I do. Also, social worker, work with autistic children, and trying to finish up a doctorate. Not trying, I am doing my doctorate studies right now, and helping out with Flint. I've been helping out with Flint and what I could do in my capacity. I call myself the silent helper, to help out where I can. And so I am here today because I stand with Janice since the inception, since the beginning, and watched this entire movement unfold, and also witnessed the power of the Holy Spirit leading and guiding her along the way, which we all need. And I know we all have pulled on our spirituality in order to get through these times and through many different situations. So I'm just so glad to be here, so blessed to be here. Spoke to a young man today, invited him to be a part of our show, to listen, because he gave me more fire listening to the reform that needs to happen while they're even in prison, and how many things are tacked on to a sentence, and even before the person begins the sentence. They incarcerate our children at such early ages, and they prosecute them as adults. So we have a purpose. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Allie, hi, how are you? How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good.
Introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Alexandria. I'm an activist and a behavior therapist. I'm with Michigan Liberation. Do a lot with Oakland County team, as well as accountability for Dearborn. Also part of Representative Kyra Golden's advisory council. So I'm doing those things, and I'm here today because I want to keep the movement going. So just to make sure that the focus remains on justice for Black people, just want to keep the movement going. And being here is one of my ways of doing that.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to bring in our special guest today, Rev Ed Pinkney.
Hey, I've been listening to all this good information that y'all got going here. And we got attorney Mack and is Barack. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yes, you said it just perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I myself, I've been battling this for many years. I started off being a court watcher. That's what I do. Since 1995, I started doing that. And what I would do, I would train people that come from around the world to actually be with me, so I could train them how to court watch. I have people from Japan. I had people from Mexico. I had people from Panama. People from all over the world would come and sit with me, and as I court watch in Barron County, Michigan. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to show them how the justice system worked and how it worked against people of color. And that was my partay. The juvenile lifers, I was one of the fortunate ones in 2003 to, matter of fact, I got a call from this guy in 2003. And he was telling me about it was unlawful for a juvenile to be put in prison for the rest of his life. And I'm thinking, I said, well, I'm not a lawyer, so how do I deal with that? And he would call me, but he called me collect, which I don't mind at this time, but he did that. So I got the ACLU on board to battle this issue. And then Stevens, the guy who wrote the book, Just Mercy, him and I became friends. And matter of fact, I went to the Supreme Court with him to when he argued about the juvenile lifers and won. And it was such a gigantic thing, and it was just mind blowing just being there with him, and he's up there, a black man up there arguing with these folks, telling them why a guy that's under 17 years of age can be given life in prison without the possibility of parole or anything else. You see, it was inhumane, and I like what he was saying. So that was one of the parties of things that I really enjoyed doing this. And like I've been doing it for many years, and I believe in justice for all, and regardless what it is. And like Attorney Mack was talking about how they stack the deck. They give you 5, 6 charges, but they give you 5 or 6 charges, hoping that you'll plead to 1 or 2. You see, that's how you keep them from going to trial and everything, by stacking the charges up. And one of the charges, resisting arrest. To me, that if they tell you to put your arms behind your back and you don't put your hands behind your back, they call that resisting arrest, and which make no sense. That's not really as you just didn't put your arm behind your back. But in their eyesight, you're resisting arrest. But that was really one of the things that I target when I was court watching, and when people came from all over the world just to be with me to court watch. It was such an incredible thing that I really got excited, And here's the thing that I always do. I deal with the police department. I make sure that they do what is right, because we have a history down here of them mistreating black folks, and they will do it in a minute, and they won't even think about it. And I think earlier I was telling you about this guy, Andrew Collins, what he did, like he planted drugs on over 200 people. Matter of fact, he was a police officer of the year for the state of Michigan. And they knew he was planting drugs on people. They knew it. But unfortunately, by him being white and black folks saying that it's impossible for them to have drugs, that didn't mean a thing. But what put the nail in his coffin, he messed around and beat up a white guy in St. Joe, Michigan, which is like 98, 99% Caucasian. And that was his mistake. That was his downfall. They went to Benton Harbor Police Department and found a whole locker full of drugs. He had everything you could think of. He had cocaine, he had heroin, he had meth, he had marijuana. The locker was full up to the top. And that spelled his down. But we were telling them this all along, that this guy was planting drugs on people, but they never could bring him to justice because he was white. So a lot of times I always tell J Love and everybody that there's strength in numbers. The way we can defeat them is we have to have the numbers. You see, I remember once I took Benton Harbor City Council, which is 100% black. I took 5 members of the council over to the courthouse, and we're gonna have a meeting with the chief judge over there, and tell him that we're not going to tolerate the way they treating black folks anymore. It scared them to death, because that has never happened before. You see, nobody will go over there and have the gall to go over there and talk to these judges and tell them what they're doing was illegal. And when I took these guys, these 5 elected officials over there, and sat down with this judge, the chief judge, and told him that we wasn't going to tolerate this mess no more, they said Pinkney had to go, because now you have crossed that line. And that's when the fight began. And my thing is stuff, I like to recall these elected officials who don't do right. That's why they was willing to go and talk to these folks. We use the system of recalling elected officials. And the thing is here's what's important. Every single elected official, anybody who elected, can be recalled. And what I do, I train people to recall people. I was out in California. They flew me out there to help them recall the school board president. And I showed them how to do it and to make it happen. But to make a long story short, I don't want to take up too much of the time today, but I want to just tell you, we can do whatever we want to do if we learn to do it together. The biggest problem we have is not being able to do things together. We always have some kind of gripe with each other. And one thing about a black person, the black person don't like you, they not gonna work with you. You can forget about that. That is not going to happen. You see, and they could dislike you for any reason. You wearing red shoes and you should have wore black shoes. You know, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too skinny. For any reason you can think of, we always find a reason not to like somebody. And that has really been one of our pitfalls that we have fallen into. So we have to change the way we do business and make things happen on a different scale. Let's deal with this court system because it can be defeated. The point is, we got to do it as a group, not as individuals.
I think part of that too, and that really resonates with me. Like part of us going against each other is happens because there's some of us who join forces with the system and join forces with those who are continuing white supremacy. And I have seen that in this movement a lot. Absolutely. I have seen that from a lot of Black people, and it's very disappointing. People who sell their soul because they're in politics, will side with the police. I've saw people not take my questions on panels because it wasn't suiting the police. Mm-hmm. I've saw people use the Black Lives Matter movement, in 2020, use the hype for them to get in office only for a look, but never really cared about the activists involved. I've been involved in that. I see that a lot. And I guess the only thing that allows me to be able to cope with it somewhat is knowing that white supremacy, this system can affect everybody because we're all living in this country. We all work under it. We're all in it's around us, it's everywhere. So it doesn't matter what color you are, I can still hit you and you can still side with the system. It just is what it is. But that's the only way I've been able to cope with it. But we can't unify. We can unify, but we not monolithic. I think we need to keep that in mind. We don't just all think one way. There's some Black people I feel like will be Republican, but are not because of racism. That is the only reason they are not. Because of the Republican Party right now, we see what's happening, so they're not gonna claim it. So yeah, it's you can only unify so much.
Absolutely,
but being on the right side is what's important.
Here's something too that to me, anytime when I talk to people, I like to understand their motivation. Why are you doing this? For what reason are you doing this? If you're motivated by money, then you could be bought and sold, you see. So that's one of the things that we have to make sure that we consider. I don't care if my brother is motivated by money, that means that I kind of like separate him from the movement a little bit, but I can keep him as a member, you see, to give us a little strength. But always be aware of people who are motivated by money. See, if anytime you find people who are motivated by money, they can be bought and sold. And if you can be bought and sold, they'll sell you out, your mom out, and everybody else out. They'll sell their own mom out. So we have to make sure that we are aware of what we're doing and who we're around. You got to surround yourself with certain people. Like one of the things that I did that was amazing. Minister Louis Farrakhan came to my home one time and was sitting at my kitchen table. We sit down, and he wanted this guy. He wanted this guy to be mayor of Benton Harbor. He was a Muslim brother, and he wanted him to be the mayor. And he was Mr. Farrakhan. He's a strong supporter of mine. He supported me in every kind of way that that you can ask somebody. And people can say whatever they want about him, but I know who he is and what he comes. I had a chance to speak to him for hours and hours and hours. He'll come to my home and we'll sit down and just talk. But we had this Muslim brother. He wanted him to be mayor. He told him, I want you to be mayor, but will you treat the people right? And he said, right in front of the minister, he said, I will do what's right. Soon as we got him in to be the mayor, money was flying everywhere. We got Whirlpool Corporation down here who throws money around, a multi-billion-dollar company, bought and sold this guy. And it was unfortunate. And that's one of the reasons why I went to prison. I went to prison recalling this mayor so this guy can get in and become the mayor. And when that happened, this is what happened. And right now, he's still the mayor of here. His name is Marcus Muhammad. He's still the mayor here. But what he do, he's definitely not with the people. You know, I would never believe in a million years that he would not listen to the minister. You see, he do what he want to do. He lied to him and everything else. But the reason I said that and I brought that up because I think it's crucial who we deal with. You know, if we're going to be successful, we got to surround ourselves with the right people.
Right. Right. People that, and you're right, Rev Pinkney, you have to find out what their motives are, because as we see with the Black Lives Matter movement, they made like $90 million. And what are they doing with all this money? And so we find out as we look through these things that talking about injustice and stuff is profitable. And so people come in to make profits, you know, and not to help people. So we have to be, you know, focused on the motive. Why are you here? What are you here for? Reverend Tia?
Yeah, and you know what? In helping to further the cause, to take the money, I mean, when we really look at it, if everyone could pour into a fund, every family, to back what the movement, to back the progress, we could see more success, but we don't have everybody on board. And even, you know, it doesn't matter the party. It doesn't matter what party, because the parties have not, I don't care, Democrat or Republic, has not been faithful to humanity, to just doing the right thing. And it's ridiculous to see so many people in leadership positions who continue to act and allow inhumane behaviors to be consistent at that level, whether it's in the justice system, no matter where it is. So reform is necessary because people are hurting.
Yes.
You know, and it's affected generation after generation. And it's time for all of it to stop. All of it. And you got to know those wolves in sheep clothing. Just because they say they're behind a cause, you know, I look at the actions. I look at what are you doing? You know, and so many people, but we got to start calling them out. When you call them out, then they want to retract things. But no, you still can't play with us. You know, I used to play basketball, and as a girl playing basketball, I understood if I had my ball, I could play. So I could go to the park and play as long as I had my ball. Now, if you didn't treat me right, I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home. You get your own basketball. And that's what we got. You can't play anymore with us. You cannot be with us, be a wolf, and we not call you out.
Right. Absolutely. That's really gigantic when you sit down and think about it. And we should be calling these people out, you know, whether they like it or not. You know, and J Love, when I'm on the radio or something like that, I'll call a person out in a minute, because I got an obligation, not just to myself, but also to the people. You see, I put the people first. To me, nothing supersedes the mission. I don't care what it is. Nothing supersedes the mission. And in my eyesight, my job is to complete the mission. And that's why I can sleep good at night.
Right.
You see, when you're not doing what you're supposed to do, then you be tossing and turning all night long. You see, but when you know that you have given your best, you know, you can sleep well. And I you know, even sometimes my wife, she always say, well, wow, you know, you go sleep just like that. And I always tell her, just do the right thing. And she said, well, I am doing the right thing. I say, well, just do the right thing. You should be able to fall asleep just like me. And that's what I believe.
Right.
And let's start holding these people accountable. And if it's necessary to call them out, let's call them out. Yeah. Let's call a spade a spade. You know, we have to call people out for their words, their action, their inaction. We got to learn to draw the line in the sand. He said, no, we're not no longer taking this no more. We're going to do what needs to be done, and that's what we're going to do, you know. And it's always, see, I always say it's always for the future, our children and our children's children. There's nothing to me more important than our children. You know, nothing. I don't care what they say, nothing, because I believe in building. But one of the things I would like to see our children do more of right now, I like to them become lawyers, doctors, but I also like to them to become carpenters, pipe fitters, bricklayers, electricians. I want to see them do these things also. You see, because those are jobs, you know, like you see people working on the highway. These are non-skilled people making big money, and none of us got these jobs.
Right.
None. We don't have those jobs. At least down in this part of the country, we don't. This part of the state, we don't have that. You know, which is gigantic.
I think too.
So,
Oh no, no. I was gonna say, yeah. I remember being at school at U of M, Dearborn, and like being on one campus. Like we had the section that has all the teachers, people going to school for social work, people in psychology, those kind of fields. You know. That was one section of the campus. But then the other side was like engineering, science. Like it was so then going from both of those. So when I went to my HR classes, that was in the building with engineering, and I would see the racial difference.
Absolutely.
You start to see Asian people. You start to see Indian people. You don't see very many Black people. And you know, and the other side of the other building with psychology and education and stuff, it wasn't a ton of Black people, but it was more because, of course, it's Dearborn, so it was more Arab people. But they weren't, you know, they weren't really over there either. It was other groups. So I get what you're saying. I'll also say too, which is, you know, unfortunate. I think about generational wealth. Yeah. And I think about how it wasn't until was it 1968 Fair Housing Act, where until then we weren't able to own homes. And then owning a home, you build generational wealth. Not being able to do that. And then I start to think about how my grandmother that was her time, and she's my mom's mom. And that's why I'm at. So, you know, the poverty is a policy issue. Absolutely. There's a governor in California who just passed some bills that would what they're calling is a form of reparations. But there's a mayor in California this week passed some bills to do monthly payments and some other things because of the injustices that's happened to Black people. One thing resonated with me was that poverty is not a personal issue, it's a policy issue. And absolutely. The Fair Housing Act being passed that late in time, 1968, you know, it hit us hard. And in terms of homeowners, the numbers are still similar to then. So,
right. Yeah. And then with the 2008 or 2009 mortgage crisis, it took Black home ownership backwards.
Absolutely.
So when we were progression,
now we're predatory loaning. That predatory loaning. That was crucial. But you know, I always think that we gotta have a legacy for our children. Right. You know, build some kind of legacy for them. And like you said, being a homeowner, you building something. You know, so let's always talk about, rather than renting, owning, because I think that is crucial at this stage. You know, you get out here and want to see. I was in Coldwater prison, and when I was there, I met some of the most intelligent young men that you would ever want to come across, and they are the one who put me in the direction where I want to help them get out of prison with that commutation. You see, I knew nothing about the commutation. I had no idea what it does, but I joined the lifers. See, when I joined the lifers, I knew that I had to do something, because I could not continue to be in prison and let these guys stay in prison, you know, without doing anything. So what we did when I first got out of prison, I had a little money. So what I did, I I got a lawyer, and we put in 21 commutations of guys that was in prison all over, 21, and we got 17 guys who were given was released from prison out of that 21. And just recently, a young lady just got released from I think it's the prison, the female prison that we put up the funds for her to be released to a commutation. She had served 32 years in prison, and just by being in Coldwater, I learned, I knew that we could do something, but you gotta want to do it. A lot of times you say, "Oh, that's too much work. It's too much." It's a lot of work, but the point is, the end justifies the mean. You see, right. And nothing supersedes the mission. And that's what we have to understand. We have to get out here and do what we need to do to make sure we're doing what's right. And if we can do that, we can be successful.
Absolutely. Baraka?
I'm listening to my elders here, and I'm taking it in. What I would contribute to this conversation is that as organizations, we need to take note from women. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we got to remember about women live in a man's world, or at least a world that we believe is a man's world. And they're always doing things to take and compromise within that world. They know that most of the men that they come in contact with, or too often the men that they come in contact with, have ulterior motives, but nevertheless, they know how to take and get what they want out of their situation for the good of their situation. As organizations, we have to learn to do the same thing. Not everybody comes to the organization with the same intent, with the same motives. And so as organizations, we have to take and learn to get out of everybody that comes what we want in the interest of the organization, and not spend our time to take and try to find out who is actually true to the cause and not true to the cause. Mm-hmm. You can spend all your time trying to look into a person's heart, and you'll never complete that science, because that's something that's unseen. So as opposed to taking and trying to figure out the person, keep your eye on what you want, and you demand that from everybody unconditionally. There was a particular individual that I knew that came in leadership within an organization, and he acknowledged, he said, many of the people around me are undercover government agents. Mm-hmm. And he said, I know that. And he said, but I'm not going to preoccupy my time with taking and trying to, oust them and all of that. As long as they're here, they're going to do what's supposed to be did. Yeah. We're going to work their ass too. So if the FBI come into your organization, work the FBI ass.
That's right.
If the police come in, work his butt. If he's there in that space, all you have to be concerned of is what you're doing. Don't do anything that you ain't supposed to be doing. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, it doesn't matter that he or she is in your presence. You make sure that you always know what your mission is and keep everybody on the same page. No mission drift. No mission drift. Okay? Women do it every day with men. When men there, they know they have ulterior motives. But the woman know what she needs, and she's gonna stay on the mission. So we need to take and start learning from some of these women and quit assuming that because you think that you're in charge, everything is going your way. Make that the same thing in our organization. Get out of these people, everyone. If you show up at the doorstep, you're gonna deliver. You done seen what our policy statements say. So if you hear, that's what you're here for. Bottom line.
Hey, absolutely. I like that. Put everybody to work, regardless what it is, everybody can do. And remember, everybody can do something. And, today, women, in most organizations, you see more women than men, and that's even my organization. It's mostly ran by the women, they're the one who make it success. It's not Reverend Pinkney, it's them. They do the work. You see, and they're willing to do it. We pass out flyers. We pass out 3,000 flyers a day. It's the women's out there doing it. It's not, it's not, us guys. It's the women. And you're absolutely right. If you come into the table, at least bring a fork. Even if you use the FBI. And I believe that that's one of the things that we must learn to do and show people what we are capable of doing. And I take my hat off to the women because without them, I don't know where my organization would be.
Attorney Hugo Mack.
Well, all I can do is just agree, but in my venue, one of my missions is to show up. I heard Reverend talking about some time he was at Coldwater. I'm kind of familiar with Coldwater too, 141 First Street. Okay, and so I just want to share this little thing about myself. The Inmate Benefit Fund would put on activities at the holidays, basketball tournament, a softball tournament, stuff like that. And I remember they had a handball tournament, all right, that people could sign up for. But I don't know nothing about handball. I've been and broke my ankle, my knee, my elbow, all up in there. But you know what I did? I showed up. And a lot of the fight is in a person's willingness to show up for the fight. Because when you show up, the opposition may not be there or may not be as strong as you think they are, or intimidated by the fact that you had the nerve to show up. So for me, every day when I go into court, I view that prosecutor, that man or woman in their face and say, I'm here and I come to fight. Okay. Whichever way this thing end up today, you're going to know one damn thing, you was in a fight. Okay. And so that's what I'm saying, to encourage everybody, if you got to stand up by yourself for the momentary thing, people are watching and people will be encouraged if you show up.
Amen. Hey, I strongly agree with that too. Show up, and see, one of the things I like at the courthouse, I would be there every day. It was like I wasn't being paid to be there, but I knew I had to be there. When that court at 8:30 in the morning, I had to be there. They had to look in my face, whether they like it or not. And I'm not there for you to like me. I care less about whether people like me or not. You see, I think that was one of the traits. As a matter of fact, I didn't even care whether my children like me. That's the most thing. Long as I'm doing what's right, you see, and then doing it for the people. And Attorney Mack, you are absolutely right. You show up, and you show out, and that's how you win this thing. Because you cannot win if you don't show up.
That's right.
Hey, can I ask, hey, J Love, you was on a show this morning.
Yes.
And the brother Daoud brought up the concern about these drones that's being flown over Detroit, and that Michigan is the only state in the country that's under a federal jurisdiction of they're using the Anti-Terrorist Act to literally use us as an experimentation with all these secret spying and stuff. Won't you elaborate on some of the stuff that you guys were talking about this morning?
Yeah, they were talking about the drones. They were discussing the drones and shot fire. That's another new technology that they're using to detect gunfire, but it also can listen to conversation. And then, of course, the facial recognition technology. So basically, they were saying because Michigan is surrounded by the Great Lakes and Canada, it makes it international space. So the international space allows for the all the surveillance. That's their excuse. But when we, like you said earlier, Reverend Pinkney and Tia, when you're not voicing, when we're not speaking up, we're kind of confirming that we're okay with what's going on.
Right.
And so when we're okay with what's going on, this is the type. We didn't say nothing about facial recognition because everybody was saying, well, if you ain't do nothing, if you're not doing that, you don't have anything to hide. Meanwhile, so they got cameras all over the place. Then the next thing they bring in the next technology, and then the next technology. And then again, Sam was saying all of this eventually can lead to wrongful convictions, what we talk about every week, about the junk science and all these things that leads to wrongful convictions. So yeah, the drone thing is a big thing. You see them now when you're on the freeway, they're using them as traffic. You know, they're not saying anything, but they're always watching, and it's an invasion of your privacy. Mm-hmm. You have the right to privacy.
Yeah, the thing that I'm finding fascinating is how each of us are taking, and we think that we are ignoring one party and the other party is ignoring us. And then there's another party that's taking advantage of all of us.
Right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. We have, like in the Dearborn area, we have Arab Americans that are desensitized to how their police force is preying on African Americans that drive through their community. And because they benefit from the tax in the community, you know, they're taxing African Americans in excess of $1 million, African American men and women. Where they are very small microscopic percentage of the population, but they are a macro part of the stop, frisk, and arrest and fine going through the city, and they are taking and paying millions of dollars in consequences of driving while black. And you have the Arab population sees this going on in their area, and it was going on before it was populated by Arab, but right. It has continued with their residents there in that area, but they're silent to what's going on with African Americans, and African Americans feel disinterested in the federal government spying on the Arabs, and each of us are the victim of the same predator, mm-hmm. But the predator done took and helped create a situation where each of us are disinterested in the other's party, mm-hmm. Other's fate and situation. And we all got to wake up to this because we all taking and being predatorized on, and we're being manipulated and abused. Where in the case of Arabs, you may think you might think that's ridiculous. They listen to our conversation. Well, how they know one person conversation over another? Well, if you know anything about Arabs, can be very fussy over their language. They don't, even though we say they speak Arabic, there are regional dialects that mm-hmm. separate them. Mm-hmm. There are regional dialects, you know. He speaks Arabic different from the Persian over in Iran, or over in Lebanon, you know, or over in Kuwait. All of them have a different dialect that can take and be a testimony to the region they're from. This technology that they have allows them to take and be that sensitive that they can pick up those type of dialects.
Yeah.
The same thing is true for Americans. Mm-hmm. The way we speak English here in Michigan is different than the way folks speak English in Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia. And they can take and easily pick up a person that's from those regions that's in our area and separate them from us, etc. This technology is way beyond the scope of what the Fourth Amendment will ordinarily allow. Right. And they're not acting under that. They're acting up under some war or terrorist exceptions. Mm-hmm. We got to take and become aware of what's going on in our environment.
Right. And absolutely. And then they use that technology as a way to, even with us, to decipher how we speak, mm-hmm. to decipher our language, to know how we're talking. And so when we're not paying attention, when we think, well, you know, I'm not a criminal, it doesn't have anything to do with me. Everything that happens, everything that goes on has something to do with you. It might not be, you know, you're committing a crime, but, you know, when they're flying that drone over your house for insurance purposes, you know, you might didn't admit that you had put an extra, building or whatever on your property. And you get this bill and you wonder what's going on. And I think that's one of the minister brought up about somebody that the area in which they live, the township had flew a drone over their house to give them a ticket on something they had on their property. So this is how these things eventually branch out into other things that really affect us on an everyday basis. And so they talk to you and tell you it's for crime. It's not for crime when it moves on to other areas of your life.
Absolutely. And let me say this too, like Barack and what you were saying, J Love, it's always divide and conquer. You see, if they keep everybody divided up, these people will fight against each other and they don't have to do no fighting. And so that's where we have to be stronger, you see, than what we are. We cannot continue to allow them to divide us up over little nothing. And here's the thing. Some of these people, when you're talking about the government, on my show, I usually have what they call target individuals, people who are targeted by the government, and they use microwave and whatever electronic they can use to try to get into your head. You see, the best example I can give you, when the Iraqi army surrendered to the United States when there was that war, I think it was 1991, the Kuwait War or something, whatever it was, and it was done through what they call microwave. And also, you heard something happen in Cuba, where the people was something happened to their ears. See, the government is always one step ahead of what they try to be, because they always got us occupied with garbage. Every time you look up, we're fighting stuff that we shouldn't be fighting, but we should be fighting more or less about even justice itself. How do we get out of this poverty? How do we deal with our neighbor? We have to learn to love a little bit more. We were such loving people. We used to love each other, and we used to put our arms around and help people. You don't get that no more. You don't get people want to help each other no more. You don't get that. But we got to go back to our roots and bring us together and fight this monster, because pretty soon everybody's going to be against us, whether we like it or not. They're coming, and we better get ourselves prepared to deal with these people, because it's coming. Because they got everything. We in the eyes of white folks, not all of them, but they picture us as being the worst people in the world. They say, and every time somebody gets shot or something like that, if it's done by a black guy, they put his picture all on TV and everything, and we fall for it. You see, like, instead of saying, well, maybe let's try to make things better. It got to be done with love. If we don't start loving each other a little bit more, and then also buying black. See, it's another thing. Keep our dollar circulating. You got Attorney Mack here. He's an attorney. Why don't we use him? Why don't we spend our money with him? Why don't we reach out to him? Why don't we do these things? He's an attorney. You see, we'd rather go to that and you have to excuse me, that white devil, and spend our money with him. He works with the prosecutor to send us to prison, and we think it's all right. What kind of mess is that? What kind of thinking is that?
Hey, Attorney Mack, we already splitting this money 2 ways now, man. Now we got a third one, man.
Yeah. Attorney Mack, I'm with you all the way. Look. You know, here in Benton Harbor, we don't have a black attorney down here.
Mack is a 2-way street.
That's right.
I got your link up there. Hey. You might want to contact Attorney Mack.
There you go. There you go.
Right.
You go.
Keep playing back like you crossed the map.
Right. hey, and look here, Reverend. I'm gonna tell you one thing. When you on Mack Street, it's never a one-way, brother. It's always 2 ways. We're gonna help everybody out.
There you go. That's what I want to hear. We gotta learn how to fight in our own community and build our own community up. Because these folks is here. They're coming after us. Anytime you do something good, they coming. Let me tell you this quick thing. I did a recall of the mayor here. He's a black guy. He was working against the people here in the city of Benton Harbor. What they did, they went out and recruited black folks to come against me, but they didn't know that when I fight, I bite too. and I'll bite your leg off if it's necessary, because I'm going to do this to make sure that we get what we want out of this. And that's how I win. I done had 2 cases overturned. They sent me to prison for quoting the Bible once. I quoted Deuteronomy 28, starting with the 14th verse, and the judge said it was a threat on his life. So so they sent me to prison for 3 to 10 years. It was overturned, and knowing that wasn't going to work, I did a recall, and they told me, they sent me to prison. They said that when the Supreme Court ruled there's no such charge as forgery on a recall petition. I already knew that, and it was just fortunate enough for me that I had resources to fight. You see, but I like to fight as a group. I don't like to fight as an individual. I want people to fight together. I want us to fight together. When your son is in trouble, I'm in trouble. When your son is in trouble, I'm in trouble. When you in trouble, I'm in trouble. And I believe in fighting. I think that, I fight everything. My wife said, "You fight everything." I said, "Yes." If there's an increase on my telephone bill, I'm calling the telephone company. I said, "What is with this increase on the phone, on the telephone bill? The cable bill, you know how they always raise the price? I'm calling them." She said, "Well, you call every." I said, "Well, it's only right. Somebody got to do it.
Right.
How we gonna stop these people if we don't call them? You see?" So that's what I do. And anything that happens at City Hall, they know I'm coming. They get, something happened down there. They said Pinkney gonna be here in a few minutes, and the people get on the phone, call me up. People don't even like me. I don't even care. I don't care whether they like me or not. If something going on, I got an obligation to make sure that they do the right thing. Right. And I'm in City Hall. I'm sitting there telling the mayor and everybody else, no, this is not going down. You're not cutting off nobody's water in this community. And if you cut it off, you're gonna cut it back on. But this is something. I had a tool when they cut people water off. I'll go out there and cut it back on, and tell them and when let them cut it back off. And they used to get. They said I don't know who you will, but why you do this? You know it's wrong. You know it's against the law. I said I don't care nothing about no law. I care about this person having water.
Yeah. And right. And Rev Pinkney, that's why we come here on Fridays, because it's not just my fight.
Yeah.
Because Gerard was wrongfully incarcerated. Mm-hmm. There's so many other Gerards, and there's so many Gerards that's not even getting spoken about because they took a plea deal. So we had to come together. We're here to say wrongful incarceration, wrongful convictions is wrong across the board.
That's right.
And we need to create policies, and we need to get rid of this qualified immunity and all this stuff that keeps us people going into these prisons for things that they did not do. We have to, and over incarceration, that's a biggie too. You over incarcerating somebody, like you said, the stacking. I think Attorney Hugo Mack was talking about how they stack
it up. Mm-hmm. Hugo said Mack.
Yeah, we have to call these things out. If we don't say nothing, it's just like saying we down with it. We can't be down with stuff that keep us locked down and keep our loved ones in prison for things they didn't do or over sentence them. I saw I was reading an article about these 2 gentlemen. It was a white guy and it was a black one. They were around the same age. They did around the same thing. And the white young man, he got maybe a year and some probation. And then the black young man, he got 20 years. So, same crime, different time. This is how it is. And we have to, like Rev Ed was saying, dismantle and disrupt these systems. Reform is absolutely necessary.
Absolutely.
We can't keep sitting on our butts doing nothing. We got to start standing up.
J-Love, what I would love to take and see if we all got on the same page and be able to take and demand that our criminal justice system, as we know it right here in Michigan, that the next person that runs for governor would take and vow that they would take and literally cut our system, a third of it out. 3/4 of this system, at the very minimum, that they will vow to take that out, not in a second term, but in the first term of their governorship, that they would agree to take and depopulate our criminal justice system here in Michigan. What that would do if we take and agree that our system is that 75% of it can take and be dissipated, can be eradicated. When we take and accept that, then we accept to take and only prosecute serious offenses. What we have right now, the statistics tell us, and Ali was on here a while ago, and probably Reverend Littlejohn. These activists goes out and take and collect statistics, and they tell you very precisely what the police is doing with their time and their resources. We know that the majority of their time and resources is literally taking and stopping people driving while they're Black. You don't need an education to do that.
No.
You don't need investigative skills. They can say that, hey, Hugo Mack is Black and he's driving. I can see that. I can see that he's not Caucasian and stop him. That don't take the money that we put in the police fund. It don't take the money to do that. Okay? The money that we are putting in their funds is actually money that they take from us while driving Black. They take that money and then buy other instruments to cause other harm in our community. So when we talk about defunding the police, what we're saying is that you don't need that funds that should have went to the teacher. You don't need that fund that should have went to Reverend Tina Littlejohn when she ain't in the pulpit on Sunday and she's the social worker Monday through Friday. That money needs to go to her and it needs to go to her cause. Okay? You don't need that kind of money that you got, that you're getting back to justify stopping people without a Fourth Amendment restraint. The Fourth Amendment put restraints on you, but you're always in the damn court asking for an exception. What do you need an exception to stop a person driving while Black? And so all your resources is going to that. And all the time is going to that. And so the time, if you look at the time that is spent on major investigations, murder, robbery, and rape, kidnapping the young girls and forcing them into prostitution. You look at the time that the police are using to investigate cases like that compared to the time that they're spending driving up behind my Black butt and pulling me over and asking me for my identification and then asking me, is you smoking weed? Is you drinking? None of your damn business.
Hey, Barack, he said, do you know how fast you was going? Do you have any do you have any idea how fast you was going, Barack?
We need to take and use those statistics. That's where if you're doing all those things, it's understandable that the murder rate is unabated. It's not like there are more people committing murders. It's that the ones that are being committed just ain't being solved. And it's not being solved because you run around and spending time on harassing law-abiding citizens. Okay, so we have to take and use that math to make our conversation. We don't need to go in there with all of this rhetoric. And I'm not really for spending a lot of time talking about people that don't deserve the conversation. Like other Blacks that don't do this and don't do that. Some of them don't deserve the conversation and the energy that we might give them. They don't even have a right in this space. Okay? None of them have a right in this space. What have a right in this space is to be able to identify and articulate issues and to promulgate them in terms of policy and to execute them, to stay behind them and reinforce them. We can sit around and point the finger at each other and talk about what we do and what we don't do all long, but we ain't gonna resolve nothing. There's a lot of ammunition for that. We can let the comedians have that, let them have that. They can entertain us with that. Richard Pryor done a good job at it. We don't need to take and use it in our space as activists. We can stay on point and focus on what needs to be did in our community. And the most pressing issue is is to take and depopulate this so-called criminal justice system. We need to take and bring men and women home who are going to prison for these long periods of time. We know that this is a system that is born out of racism, out of taking it after slavery was over with. Then they maintained it. They put it in a code that was called state rights, and every state felt they had the right to take the black population and put behind bars. That was the exception that was given to them inside of the Constitution in the 13th Amendment, except those who failed to hear and obey Mr. White. And Mr. White been putting us, Mr. Black and Mrs. Black, in jail ever since then. We need to, even in the independence of them taking and making an amendment to that Constitution, we need to effectuate an amendment by taking and saying no. Okay? When you look here, right where I'm at, I'm here in Ypsilanti. Every park in this area, you can't even go fishing. You know why you can't go fishing? That's something that the police should have been on top of when it was happening, because the area has been polluted. No one can go fishing in this damn area. All the fishes are dead, and the ones that's living, you better not eat them. You better not eat them. You can't eat fish. You can't take and drink water, etc. This is a crime. This is a crime that the police, with the type of money that they're taking from us, that they should have been resolving, and they don't resolve that because the same people that use them as an instrumentality don't give them that authority to do that. They don't have the authority to take and address this so-called white-collar crime. And I protest using this as white-collar crime, because these are industrial crimes, these are environmental crimes, these are crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
So we have to turn around and buy water from a bottle. You know, I grew up as a kid in the city of Detroit. Every corner had a water fountain. Every corner had a icy cold, fresh water fountain. There's no water fountains anymore. You know, kids today will find that strange and think you're trying to set them up if you put one on the corner today. They wouldn't know what to do with it. They have never seen one before. You know, we need to get back to a community that have water fountains. We need to get back to a community where we do have lakes and streams where we can fish in, where we can swim in, and where we can just stick our darn feet in if we don't want to take the fish out of the water.
That's right.
We don't have that now. You stick your feet in that water, you got to go to the hospital. Okay, that's a crime. That's a crime. Not taking a person, the way the police react today, they so hard up on crime, so incapable of investigating crime. When a person calls them to their home about a crime, they not only take and try to arrest the person that perpetrated the crime, they would arrest the victims to the crime too. You know, I know a situation where the police came to a man's house where his fiance had been killed. They arrested him. They arrested him in addition to taking and going after the person. They arrested him and charged him not with one gun offense, but they charged him with as many as 5 gun offenses for one gun. CCW, felony, firearm, the removing a serial number off a firearm and importing a firearm from out of the state. Because if you got a firearm and the firearm wasn't manufactured in the state that you're in, then you're gonna be charged with manufacturing, taking and bringing a stolen weapon or bringing a weapon across the state line. So they're pretty much like, you remember how they used to treat a black man with a white woman? They pretty much treat him like that with a gun. Okay, these are the kind of things that we have to address. While white folks are talking about the right to take and carry a gun, and they ain't talking about, you know, a Saturday Night Live anymore. They talking about a military gun.
Right.
And went into the place and killed all the Asian people. The one they just took and went into the market and killed everybody in the market. Those kind of guns they talking about that can take and pierce a brick wall, that can pierce a steel door. While they're taking and demanding the right to carry that, they are taking and arresting your child, my grandchild. They're arresting them for 4 or 5 gun offenses for one single gun. We have to bring a stop to it. We got to stop to it. We're told, oh, there's crime out there. Yeah, there's crime out there, but that ain't it.
Yeah.
That
absolutely.
ain't it. You can't drink, you can't eat, and you saying there's a crime out there. You're looking at the wrong damn crime while you're going to the supermarket and loading up on water. You're looking at the wrong crime.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
Rev Ed?
Yeah, you know, I tell you, this is every time someone speaks, I'm just like, oh my goodness, we are on fire. I believe that right now is the time for people to become educated into the tactics of what is actually happening, because a lot of people in our community don't really know, and they do not educate themselves to truth. And sometimes they don't want to see the truth, or like in the movie, what they said, you can't handle the truth. But the truth is the truth, and that is artificial. We have become so artificially intelligent that we are humanistically stupid, because we have that much artificial intelligence, and yet somebody can come in and kill a whole group of people. You couldn't see that in advance. My thing is, do your job. Do your job. The job should not be for something that is artificial to do your job. And they even have already said that artificial intelligence, as far as being a part of policing, is going to be entrapment. All the studies show it's entrapment. For who? For African American people, for people of color, to police us, who are the least to pose any type of danger that's going to be on a mass level. It's time for them to do their job. And I tell you that we have to realize, as a people, we have a choice in this. We have choice. And the first choice is making up our mind to be educated to reality, to what is happening, to know the tactics, and to know how to come together. Where can I help? How can I serve?
Amen.
To help bring the community together. We have a choice in this. We are not powerless. The more people that come together, the more powerful we are.
That's right.
The more policies that we need to go ahead and continue to create political change through policy. We already know artificial intelligence needs to be dismantled. Now I got to go find out who did they write something already, what needs to be written. Because that alone is an unnecessary challenge to come into our communities. It's unnecessary. And we got to say no.
Yeah. Attorney Hugo Mack?
Well, I say God bless everybody, and I'm encouraged where I'm at, to keep fighting, because every time I listen to the people on this panel, I know I'm not alone, and I draw strength, from this, because for me, to be honest with you, it can be a lonely spot, I'm in there disproportionately with somebody of color, and even with people around me that have my same uniform, I really know they're not on my team. Okay. So it is so hard to bring justice for people of color when you've got people in the system, and somebody talked about this earlier, that I think it was Allie, that have gone into the system, because it gives a supremacist, an elitist, the opportunity to say, well, wait a minute, look at him. I mean, or her. She's a person of color. She doing just fine. She's a law-abiding citizen. Or when you have somebody like that willing to jump on the team, that is so willing to castigate somebody because of where they live in Ipsy. Okay, during this last campaign for prosecutor, I made it a point. I didn't have to parachute into Harriet Street. Okay. You know, I grew up in that area, clients in that area. Okay. You see, you didn't have to tell me about Curry's Barbershop. I know all about it. I didn't have to map quest it. But the problem is when you have people who, for that dollar, have joined that system and willing to be on that side where they can be the buffer, you know? And if you notice, a lot of times when it comes to criticizing black people that are standing up, they'll find one black person to stand up against them, you know, and make that person be the poster boy or girl to stand up against them. You know what I'm saying? To stand up against them. So, you know, I just say thank you, J Love, and no, I consider all y'all brothers and sisters now. You know, we've met on this journey together, and thank you because it encourages me. Because sometimes it's lonely. It is. You know, I'm swinging against the judge, the prosecutor, the police. You know, people that look like me willing to put somebody under just to see them squirm. And I'm gonna say this: I don't want to filibuster. I will say this: it is so disappointing when you see a member of your own community so happy to see another black person go down. It's almost as if they feel a thrill in seeing you go down because they think they're on that other team and they're respected, you know.
Right.
You know, and Malcolm talked about the field Negro and the house Negro, you know. And unfortunately for me and for us, I see far too many house Negroes. Far too many.
Wow.
Rev Ed Pinkney.
Oh, absolutely. I tell you, Attorney Mack, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, everybody today, Reverend, you did that, Barack, J Love. I mean, you all have just been sensational. And this is why this program is so important, because one thing I know about my black brothers and sisters, what they would do, they would get on that other team thinking that other team is going to support them. They believe that, knowing that other team don't give a hoot about them, don't care nothing about you, you know. And the bottom line, it's just like working somewhere. When you work at the courthouse, you with all these white folks who trying to put black folks in jail and lying and doing everything else to them, and you join them and thinking that you with them and they like you. They don't like you. They just using you for what they can get out of you right now. See, we got to change. I think just talking about this, having this conversation about some of the things that we need to do, I think this is huge. You see, because we need to know what we can do and what we can't do. I believe in strengthening numbers. I win my cases strictly because I have numbers. People from all over the country come and support me. They do. They come and support me. And I have resources. When you have resources to fight, you can win. This is where we got to get with our community. Here's something that I think that this group, we should do. We should start court watching. And I say that because it's to me, that's my way of intimidating them. Because when I go to court, I write something on down, then I put it on my website. And they read my website. And they know that they don't intimidate me. We have to show them what we can do as a group. And they know that I got a lot of supporters, especially up in Detroit, especially up in Flint, especially around. You gotta have the numbers in order to beat these folks. If we learn to work together, we can win. We can win. We can stop all these false incarcerations and all these other things. But we can't do it until we learn to work with each other. And my thing is that you don't have to like me. I don't even want you to like me. You know, I don't want you to. We're just going to do what we're going to do, and we're going to be successful at what we're doing. And it's not just for Reverend Pinkney. It's for the future of all our children, because that's where we're losing the battle at with our children. We're losing that battle. You may not see it, but we're losing it. Our children don't want to, nowadays, we don't tell them what they need to do. We don't tell them. Until we start telling them what they need to do, we're going to continue to lose them. You know, what kind of child going to go do a drive-by? People kill somebody you don't even know. That ain't the black way. That's that mafia stuff. That ain't black folks. We don't do stuff like that. And I'm gonna shut up after I say this. We was there's a guy in Chicago. They called him Bowlegs. And what he would do, he ran a murder. Like you can call him up on the phone and say, I want my husband killed, or my boyfriend killed, or my wife killed. And they'll give you a price on the phone. And Bowleg, they called him Bowleg because he didn't actually do the murders. He had these guys, these ex-police officers, all of them committing the murders. And they would do this. This is what he told when he got into court. He said, for money, people would do anything. He said that. He said they will kill somebody they don't even know for a few dollars. And he said that this, and he actually said it in court. Look at his name. I don't know his real name, but we called him Bowlegs. And the Fed, he had feds working for him. He had police officers working for him, and they would go out and kill these people for money. You can call him up on the phone and say, well, I need my wife killed, or I need my husband killed, and he'll give you a price. And this went on for years, 10 years. He was doing that. Black folks, we don't act like this. That's why it hurted me so bad, because we don't act like this. We're family orientated. We love our children. And we got to change. Okay, I'm through.
And can I share something with you guys?
Yeah.
When I came up as a kid, one of the things I learned from my grandparents, they were always talking about Mississippi. They were from my father's mother and father was from Mississippi. And they would always talk about their home state where they came from down in Mississippi. And they were aware of all the injustice that was being perpetrated in that state by the authorities and the people in general that live there. We don't have that kind of sophistication here in the cities. We don't become blind to that. Our people knew that, hey, I remember my family wouldn't let me go down south when I was younger. They said I was too much like my mama. You know, they said I was too much like my mother as opposed to my father. My father's a very even-tempered person. My mother quite different. And so they wouldn't allow me to go. My younger brother under me that was raised by my grandparents, he was able to go, but I was told I couldn't go, you know. And I later got a chance to go when I got older. But it was always this warning that you can do things, you can say something to people, and it has consequences that affect your whole family. And so they knew all the particulars of how Southerners took and perpetrated injustice against the African American community down there. We done got here in the city and we totally blind to what goes on. Like the Department of Correction here in Michigan. They done had a mission. I like to take and refer to it as a mission drift, but it's really not a mission drift, because a mission drift is when you really have a policy and then you drift away from that policy into something else. Michigan has consistently took and defined its certain behaviors and peoples, even outside of the law, as being worthy of life sentences. It's always the same group of people, but it's under a different claim in the law. But it's always the same people, young black males. Okay, when Michigan took and went through the trouble to take and do away with the good time statute, where people who were incarcerated was getting incentive for taking and behaving well in prison. We had a racist here in Oakland County, Brooke Patterson, that took and ran on an agenda to take and do away with the good time, and he, you know, even took and tried to get the death penalty here in the state. He wanted to become governor, so he did any and everything, you know, the race biting and everything. But they did away with the good time. The legislation that he instigated was directed at indeterminate sentencing. But after the law that he wanted to get passed was passed, it didn't just affect those who were doing indeterminate sentencing. They turned around to those that was even doing parolable life and said that this new law was intended to make you not be able to take and be eligible for parole. It had nothing to do with the person that was serving a determinate sentence, but they took and applied it. Even the Attorney General, the longest residing Attorney General in the state of Michigan, who was a Democrat, he took and even got on the wagon and said yes. He issued an opinion, and that opinion stuck. So even guys who had took plea bargains, where judges had sentenced them to life, believing that after a 10 calendar year they will be eligible for parole, they stopped it. And these guys wind up taking serving time beyond the time that they should have had, the parole board should have had jurisdiction. So the courts eventually resolved that and say, no. That legislation had nothing to do with this group of people. So they got rid of that group, that stigma on that group for parolable life. But a few years later, they did the same thing. They went back. They literally just took and said, life means life. Okay?
Yeah.
Life means life. Doing first degree or second degree. Even though these people had pleaded guilty, they had threw themselves to the mercy of the court. And the judges had took and carved out these decisions with the prosecutor and their attorneys and everything. Despite all of that, these guys wind up taking and doing life bits, not because of change in the law, but because of a different interpretation and practice. Okay,
that's true.
So, again, it was still the same group of people, young black males, that was sentenced early on to these number of years. And in some cases, the judges and attorneys thought that the clients would do a better taking letters like a life sentence than taking numbers, because sometimes judges would take and sentence a person to these basketball scores, which were equivalent to their natural life, because they wouldn't live beyond those numbers. You know, you can pick up a book. They got the MCL, or you can pick up you can consult with insurance agents, and they'll tell you what the life expectancy is for any particular ethnic group in the state. They make their career out of it. They make money off of that. So you had people sentencing African Americans to numbers that was in excess of the expected life expectancy. Okay, and even when they want that, then it's the youth, then it's the kids. Then they saying, hey, they are predators. They're gonna grow up and be predators because they don't have a daddy or a mama that's raising them, and they're being raised in the street. We literally got behind the Clintons and the president of the United States when he argued about that bill that he got passed, the crime bill. That's the bill we're talking about, where they demonized your black children and said they will grow up as predators and super monsters and shit. Excuse my language. And they built super maximum prisons all around this country, which are mothballed right now today. It costs big money to run those kind of facilities that are intended for international terrorists. That's what they was planning to put your children in. Okay? They was planning to put your baby there. Okay? They was planning to put Gerard there. They was planning to put Edward there. You know, all the rest of us. That's what they was planning on doing with those prisons. And then they went from that, where you had these children, where they were sentencing them to the rest of their natural life. To the rest of their natural life. When he talk about Brian Stevenson, this is what he went to court and won his court battle over. Saying, hey, you know, not only is it common sense, but we got evidence that these guys can do better. That they, even if they take and do the worst act in their youth, there's no guarantee that they will be that same person as they become an adult. Okay? And we didn't have African American prosecutors and judges take and argue why they needed to stay in prison and get on this bandwagon of demonizing them. Okay? And demonizing them. These are African American people that we done put in office. They are not representing our interests. Anytime another black person take and jump on the bandwagon and use the same language and the same mentality of people who have been trying to annihilate us since we've been here, they're not representing your best interests.
That's right.
Representing your best interest. Now we're seeing hundreds of these former kids that have been sent to prison, and they're coming home and getting college degrees. They're coming home and getting married and having children, and they're changing their lives. But the argument was that they could never do that. And you don't hear these people standing up and saying, oh, you know, I was wrong. I apologize. And open. Some of them are still taking and saying, I can get some profit out of this. And they still standing and wait, and they're attempting to take and gain profit from this. You know, they're still taking and waiting. I would love to take and have an investment in some of our officials, but I don't have the investment, you know, because as the brother had mentioned earlier, Rev Pinkney, that, you know, you had somebody that gave a pledge that he would always look out for the people, and he got in office and he turned around and did something. That's common. This is common practice of us. And we too easily get sucked in by this pigmentation. You can be of white skin and be of African American heritage, or be of African American culture. You know, if you're white, you Arab, and you can fit and you have adopted the Black culture, then that's who you are. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It's what's in your heart, what's in your mind, how you feel 24/7. You know, we have to constantly have our interests. You know, the people that was mostly against Dr. King when Dr. King began to take and try to lunch his meeting were people who looked at like Dr.
That's right. Absolutely.
You know, they all celebrate him today now that he's dead. But when Dr. King was living, they said he was a troublemaker, man. You know, they rebuked him just as like Malcolm was rebuked. They only came to like King a little bit better after they heard Malcolm. You know, they were like, hey, we like this one here. You know, it was only after Malcolm showed up that they began to love King more. You know, so we got to take and be conscientious of this and quit taking and putting people in office simply because they look like you. And if you do put them in office and then they show evidence to you that they ain't, it's okay to elect somebody that look different from you if they have your best interest. The fact that
let me call you back.
Is a white person. The fact that he's a white person in a dominant African American city ain't a sufficient argument to remove him. What other argument do you have other than to take and try to appeal to my sentiments, appeal to my common sense? Tell me how having him in there is affecting my taxes. Tell me how having him in there is affecting how the city is being governed in terms of the standard of living, with water, with housing, with streets, with police and law enforcement and everything in the city. Talk to me about that. Don't take and try to get into my emotionality or into my sentiments about Black and white. That's the argument you're trying to make when you tell me, oh, it's a predominant African American and there's a white person that's leading it. That ain't the issue. The issue is what our quality of life. Don't use that one on me, because the guy that came a little bit before him, he was throwing toxic waste on the school ground, him and his partner, and then charging you to pick it up while your kids was out on the playground playing with toxic waste. And we said that was okay because he was Black. That wasn't okay. I may have not cared for the kind of sentence he got. I may have not cared for that, but the fact that he went to prison was his own dumbass fault. That was his own dumbass fault. That wasn't my fault as a Black person. That wasn't the other white person's fault as a white person. That was his dumbass fault for taking and doing something like that. The man had an opportunity. He could have been a Barack Obama. He could have been a Barack Obama. We could be celebrating him as the first African American president. We could have been celebrating him as the second. We could have been celebrating him to be something other than the shame that he brought upon his family, upon himself, and upon his community. His Black skin is not the issue. It's his mentality. You know, he ripped us off just like anybody else. So if you're going to talk to me about something, talk to me about the issues. Talk to me about the issues. I don't want you to support me because I'm a Black person. I'm not appealing to you that I went to prison as a 17-year-old child. I was a gang leader at 17 years old. I was a gang leader at 16 years old. I was a gang leader at 15 years old. Okay, I ran the largest street game in the city of Detroit. My game wasn't in a neighborhood. It was on the east and the west side of Detroit. Okay, but that didn't make me guilty of the crime that I went to prison for. Okay, that didn't make me guilty of the crime that I went to prison for. What made me guilty of the crime I went to prison for was the propaganda that the prosecutor put out, that nobody did anything but him giving the word. Nobody could act. That wasn't the evidence that they went to a judge and got a warrant for me for. The warrant was on a whole different basis. And that's what I'm saying. We need to take, as the Reverend said, when we go into these courtrooms and watch court proceedings, we want to make sure that the prosecutor are prosecuting them cases based on evidence that are relevant to the charges that the person's been charged with, not on this geeked up propaganda and so forth, demeaning people. You know, a witness can't take the stand without being put down. You know, things of that nature, where they just devastate everybody that come in contact with the system. We have to stop that. We have to take a place in the courtroom.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right, because when people know that you're watching them, they take on a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're, you know, nobody's watching, they do whatever they want to. There's no record.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I agree. Well, I want to say to you guys, of course, we're going to have to change our time because we always go over. But I'm so happy, Rev Pinkney, you joined us for we're going to take a couple of weeks off where I haven't took no time off since Gerard was incarcerated. So I'm going to take just a couple of weeks off to just get myself together. Because, you know, if I'm not together, then I can't do anything for nobody else. So I'm going to take a couple of weeks off. And when we're going to come back, and we're going to come back stronger than ever before, we're going to be talking about knowing your rights. And
that's right.
Going to be going deeper into this because we had to, it's our responsibility to educate the community. You know, you don't know you have a problem if you just running around thinking everything is okay, unless somebody tell you there's a problem. Some of us don't know. So we're going to help you find out how we all are in this together, and nothing that happens to me, something that happens to me can also happen to you.
You, that's right.
So we're all in this together. I love all you guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the listening audience for joining us. We'll be back in about 2 weeks. I think April the 16th, we'll be back. So you guys get some rest too.
Yeah, all right.
All right.
Attorney Mack, Barack.
All right. Hey.
Oh, we all going to meet up soon. Attorney Mack, I definitely need to talk with you. Barack,
we will.
It's going down. Reverend T, hey.
Yes.
Hey, it's going down. So let's we're gonna get together and we're gonna form. I'm gonna come up to Detroit and court watch with y'all.
You know, hey, brother Sanders, hang on in there with the truth, brother. Hang in there with the truth.
Yeah. Amen. All right.
Yeah, we're gonna create some kind of justice monitors where we can
that's right.
Take turns going into these courtrooms and you know, put some people on notice. There you go.
Got
our eyes on you.
Let's use our strength to win this thing.
Tina doing in the church on Sundays. She got energy to take and be a social worker 5 days a week and then show up at the pulpit on Sundays. I think I might go in there and check out, see what she up to.
Hey, you know what? Along that line, I got educated with Reverend Littlejohn because all this time I thought Superwoman was white.
That's right. All right. Amen.
All right, thank you guys, and for everyone who don't know, I'm going to tell you where you can follow Justice for Gerard Movement. Hold on, here we go. We're on Facebook, of course, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. If you haven't signed the petition yet, go to change.org/justice for Gerard. Sign the petition. We have a website, www.freegerard.com, where we talk about wrongful convictions, how they happen, and we educate the community about wrongful convictions. Again, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for your comments. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. We also want to send love to Trische. She had some unfortunate deaths in her family, and we want to send her love. She's out here, strong in the community, and she's our sister, and we love her. So we're going to send love to Trische. And we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Love you guys.
All right.
Love you.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
God bless.
God bless. Thank you.